This is Money Moves on VSiN, the sports betting network.
Happy Thursday. Happy parade day for those of y'all out there in New York. Stormy, Buonantony, Jonathan Von Tobel with you live in downtown Las Vegas, Circa Resort and Casino. Jam-packed 2 hours here as we welcome you into Money Moves. I wish we had a proper prediction market on how many times Mike Brown was going to go out there and do the who let the dogs out, because we're already at multiple at this point today.
I only saw the one. There's been others?
Yes. I was sad that we didn't see one on the podium, though.
Yeah, I mean, look, that's going to happen. There's a lot of libations flowing, so I have not seen a ton outside of the lovely young woman who was dancing on top of the light poles. What term did you use?
Don't need to talk about it.
Okay, yeah. So
but
Stormy,
twerking is the word that you used. So
that is the term to use.
Well, I didn't know.
I mean, judging by our audience, I would say that many of them don't know what twerking is either.
They probably would have used the same term that I did, so we'll just leave that at that. However, some of the videos that are coming out of the parade have been awesome and fun, and there's something about, in my brain, that I just love when you get intoxicated athletes in front of a microphone cursing. It's pure entertainment. It's hilarious. I also just, with all of the fanfare and all of the people that are out there, I don't know who ordered the Chick-fil-A delivery, but I saw a couple of Chick-fil-A people with the big heat packs that were walking through trying to get wherever they were going. So it's chaotic. It's fun. It looks awesome. And we've got a chaotic and fun show on deck, too, because even though the NBA and the NHL finals are now behind us, there is still a lot going on here in the summertime. So let's set the table with everything we have to come.
It's time for the top headlines and topics of the day. This is The Rundown.
Obviously, plenty of World Cup discussion on the way, including an update on the Golden Boot here, because after another awesome day yesterday, England, yes, got it done for me on the money line, but how about Harry Kane with a 2-goal game of his own? Yep. If you are betting the Stars this week, JVT, for multiple goals, you cash on him, you cash on Mbappe, Haaland, Messi. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, World Cup, the world stage, and that is where the world's biggest stars shine, apparently, as they all come out afire. And so we'll see. Excited for today as well in the World Cup, only because now we're starting to see the second matches in these groups, headlined by, I think, the match of the day later today, actually tonight. Mexico and South Korea is going to be an absolute banger. Two teams in that group that came away with victories, dominant victories at that. So we'll see what they have in store. But the cool cultural thing where all of these people come together, it seems that the Mexicans and the South Koreans have bonded on the streets. So we'll see what that looks like when they get out there. But really looking forward to that tonight and tying in the local dynamic too. But these games have been tremendous. Every single one of them. Late night last night was fun. The one we're watching here with the late penalty that gets you tied up at a point, which is very valuable. So the World Cup has delivered, and so have the Stars.
I have a bet in that Mexico game later that we will get to too, actually. And I know you specifically are dressed in a way that will set you up to change out of the blazer and into your green jersey.
No, purple. Thank you very much.
Today.
Yeah, purple and gold. But yes, the Mexico kit is ready, locked and loaded. I got to do local radio later today, but there is no visual necessities that I have, so I'll be rocking my Mexico kit the second I get out of here.
I just love that you're prepared. We'll also get some best bets from Chris Vasile of Covers.com. He's got several bets for today. Also get his thoughts on the Americans, USA playing Australia tomorrow. What's the latest on Christian Pulisic's injury as well? We will also, as we continue our guest list, head behind the counter with Duane Colucci a little bit later on. Historic handle expected throughout the country for the World Cup. What's it like here locally? And get some college baseball talk in with Matt Grissom a little bit later on. Now that the stage is officially set in Omaha, we have our final two. North Carolina, a minus 190 favorite against Oklahoma, plus 155 dogs in a best of three final set to begin on Saturday.
Yep, two performances yesterday that were pretty strong for the winners as well. So looking forward to this. I don't know if it's what we all maybe expected at the beginning of it, but this should be a very good set between these two, and I'm actually looking forward to it. I've watched a little bit of yesterday in the last few days. This should be some fun offensive baseball as we have watched these two lineups really, I think, turn out some good production. Yeah,
you mentioned yesterday Tar Heels knock off West Virginia 12-7. They're looking for their first national title ever in baseball for school history. The Sooners, meanwhile, punched their ticket, an 11-4 win over Georgia. Dogs were more than a $2 favorite with their backs against the wall, but Oklahoma ends up getting it done. And we talked about this yesterday. What was going to happen with Georgia at the plate? Were they going to be able to finally get the bats going again? Or were they going to do what they had done all College World Series to this point and struggle, and they did it again?
Yes, indeed. So it wasn't very good for them, but either way, Sooners Tar Heels all set, ready to go, and this should be, from a narrative standpoint, it is a ton of fun.
I know why North Carolina is favored the way they are, but when you look at some of the stuff that Oklahoma has done, they knock off the number 2 and number 3 overall seeds on the way to this point. Could be a fun little dog maybe to ride with. We'll discuss that again a little bit later on, though. We're going to start real quickly with golf's toughest test as the U.S. Open is officially underway from Shinnecock Hills. Not without some early adversity, though. Play was suspended early this morning for fog. They told players initially to hold in place for 15 minutes. It ended up being a 2-hour delay when all was said and done. And even though the winds has kept the scoring pretty nice actually here early on. We've got a couple players at the leaderboard 1 and 2 under, and yet the expectation is that they're going to pick up pretty heavily throughout the late afternoon.
Yeah. So Sam Stevens, your leader right now at 2 under through 16. Rory McIlroy, Ludwig Aberg, and I believe we have Ben James that is sitting there at 1 under as well. And then we get the rest of the guys that are at even and 1 over. Watching Koepka right now, and this has kind of been the theme of the day too, with another long putt. And we talked about this in the days leading up. Not only was your putter going to be very important, as it always is, but your ability to sink long putts, or at least make it so that you're not 3-putting on some of these big greens, and that has been the case. So he's going to have a knock in here, but Koepka had started out relatively well, and we'll see how he can maintain, because when you see that name at the top, given the history over at Shinnecock, what he did in 2018, you expect that he's going to be there for the long haul. Even
though he was somebody I know myself and a handful of others were thinking would be on the fade list this week, given the hand issues that he was having to withdraw late on Sunday last week. And it's a little bit scary when, for somebody who's a golfer and needs their hand, says that they can't feel part of their hand. Not ideal, to say the least.
I don't believe these guys anymore, though. Colin Morikawa, what was it, a couple of weeks ago with the back? Yeah, with the back. Yeah. It's like, this is the worst it's ever felt. Then he went out there and finished, I believe, top 10. So, if they're going to play, I think you expect that they're going to be largely near what their not peak, but their best performance can be.
I do, if we want to go through our bets real quick, just to remind people, we did it at the end of the program yesterday. I have on Tommy Fleetwood a top 10 and a top 20. He's 2 over right now. My other 2 guys haven't started yet. Xander Schauffele, top 10, top 20, 19-1 outright, and Russell Henley, a top 20 and a 40-1 outright. So we'll see how they ultimately do. I know you had a little Tommy Fleetwood in the bag as well.
Yeah, and Fleetwood so far today, the putter has saved him. It has been really the only category over at Data Golf with the live statistics in which he has gained strokes. Outside of that, really has been letting himself down everywhere else. So you don't know if that's sustainable for him, but in a tournament like this, to only be 2 over through about 14, I think you're feeling pretty good if that's going to be the case. So Fleetwood's still alive. We'll see if he can maintain and at least stick around, and then we'll see what the rest of the day looks like, because some of the guys that I have too, obviously not out on the course yet, given the delay that we have seen. By the way, did want to point out, because I don't know if you heard me grimace a little bit there, but I believe I just watched, I think it was Sam Burns that just singed an edge on a birdie putt. So that's going to be tough, especially in a day and a course like this. Got to take the birdies and get them.
Yeah, we'll have this on screen as we go throughout the course of the next couple hours, so we'll keep tabs and update you on the leaderboard as we go. Speaking of leaderboards, the leaderboard for Golden Boot getting more interesting, as we mentioned already. The stars shining brightly here. Lionel Messi, a 3-1 favorite now after the Hattie to get it going for Argentina. Kylian Mbappe, who I have in pocket, now at plus 320. Harry Kane plus 350. Erling Haaland, who had 2 at 10-1, so still double digits there. But I want to talk about Harry Kane real quickly, because obviously those 3 other guys all played the day prior than we saw England finally hit the pitch. Kane had this to say about those guys maybe providing a little motivation.
Yeah, I saw the guys scoring their goals yesterday, and I don't like to concentrate too much on other people, but I think it's natural as a sportsman, as an athlete, to try and reach the highest levels. And obviously, all those guys started in a great way. Been waiting long enough to just play the game. We've had to wait 6 days. So I think everyone's just been itching to get out there, and I think as a striker myself, obviously I want to get on the score sheet as early as possible. So I think in the back of my mind, that competition helps me to push my levels. That's what the World Cup's for the best players to perform at the highest level. So it's nice to get a couple today for sure.
Have you been surprised at all to see how the stars and the favorites have really started to come alive here lately?
I mean, I don't think so, especially when you talk about the format of what these are, right? It's teams that are largely put together, not last minute, but you don't spend a lot of time with each other. You're playing in your leagues, you're playing for your club teams, all those sort of things. So, when we talk about this all the time when it comes to continuity, maybe sometimes the play is a little sloppy. So what are you going to do? in a situation like that where you're kind of throwing a team together, much like our flag football team. We're going to rely on the best player, right? And you're going to lean on them, and you expect that time sounds true. That was me, of course. The quote from Danny Higgins, best hands on the team, John Von Tobel. Now, we've only had 1.5 practices, which everybody has shown up, but still, I get that comment. Regardless, though, I think you're not as surprised. Now, you could be surprised to the degree, right? Messi getting in on a hat trick, all of these guys getting braces as well. Like, those things are pretty surprising, but I don't think it's too surprising when you get these teams put together for national competition. They rely on their best players and they show up.
We'll see if it rolls on today. A really important game in Group B. I mean, a couple of them, to be honest, but for Switzerland, especially as somebody who personally has Switzerland as a group winner in a 3-group parlay that I put together. I didn't have a play on the game today against Bosnia, but really, really hoping that they can come through. Obviously, all 4 teams in Group B had a draw in their first matches, so all points equal. Goal differential is equal. It's going to be a really interesting one a little bit later on today. And
a lot of pressure on the, I guess we'll call them the hometown kids, but out in Vancouver, Canada gets to take on Qatar here, and they're about a $3.20 favorite, and that's coming off of a relatively disappointing draw against Bosnia. So that is going to be something to watch, too, because you talk about pressure, and we've mentioned this a lot about if you're feeling it, what's going on. Well, you got to feel it here if you're Canada, because that was a result that I think you did not want the last time out. I know on the 3-way you were barely favored at -115 against Bosnia, but you got to get the victory there, I think, if you're Canada, especially on your home pitch.
And we do have a final, as you mentioned already, 1-1 draw for Czechia and South Africa. So that ultimately cashes at +255 for those of you who had it in pocket. We'll preview Mexico, South Korea a little bit later on.
Tough beat there, man.
Reminder real quickly for anybody who didn't know or wasn't aware because of all the red cards, one big one for Mexico, no Cesar Montes today for the defensive core. We got to step aside. More money moves after this.
So you're listening to this podcast because you want an edge. But what if I told you you're only halfway there? You've got the mindset. Now it's time to get the toolkit to match. Here's the thing. Pro bettors spend thousands on data and tools. But what they don't want you to know is that you can get the same edge for a fraction of the cost with VSiN Pro. VSiN Pro gives you access to expert picks, public betting data, prop projections, powerful tools, analytics, and more. Just tap the link in the description and see why thousands of bettors are already using VSiN Pro to cash more bets.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
My entire feed is just filled with the Knicks parade right now as we welcome you back to Money Moves on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. Stormy Buonantony, Jonathan Von Tobel with you. Pure chaos. And there are some videos that make it look super fun and awesome, and I'm so happy for the fans of this team. You've waited so long for this moment, and everybody is showing out for it. But I said to you in the break, you could not pay me to be in that mob. It just packed in like a can of sardines. It's crazy how many people are out there right now.
I like to call myself the energy chameleon. I like to match the energy that is around me. And so being out there, you know me, I'm a little bit of a social butterfly. I get to experience everything. It's a ton of fun. Journalism. Got to go, report, see, observe.
Some reporters just talking about how long it took to get out of the subway station. Some of these videos and pictures, 30 minutes just to get off.
Some of the reporters were also complaining because, I guess, did you see the media setup? It was behind like a big set of bleachers that were set up so that the audio or so the visual like news feed, all that stuff, traditional television news, could take shots of the parade. And then the written media was on tables behind it, so they couldn't actually see the parade. And
no.
A lot of people were mad.
I think media people are always mad.
Correct.
And we're among them, so I get it.
I'm never mad about media stuff.
Even at the Mountain West tournament, remember we were talking about that? Everybody was so upset.
No, I don't think everybody was so upset, but a certain, shockingly enough, San Diego Union Tribune writer who covers the Aztecs. It's so surprising.
It always comes back to San Diego State. They're always getting mad about something.
Speaking of San Diego State, where's Xander Schauffele? Anywhere?
He hasn't started yet.
Oh, okay, all right, cool.
But I think in an hour and 15, roughly,
12:47 p.m. is what my thing says.
Alrighty. So, yeah, not too far away for him getting underway. Again, top 10, top 20, and an outright on Xander. So prayers up for your girl. Would like to see him have a little bit of success here, although he'll be starting as the wind will be picking up. 25-mile-an-hour consistent winds, gusts even higher. So we'll see how that ultimately goes when all is said and done. But let's get back to basketball because we do have the NBA draft coming up less than a week away out there from Barclays. And I know you've been keeping tabs on a lot of, as you said yesterday, right? The Charlie Day, like what's it called? Conspiracy theory board. Basically, that's kind of how you've been trying to connect the dots for a handful of things. And now we got a little bit more information on the Trae Young side of it.
Yeah, I mean, not really. So this is why I'll do not to be that guy, but like it helps to pay attention, folks, and to understand the machinations of what these things actually mean. So you get the headline yesterday: Trae Young has declined his player option, Storm, and he's going to be an unrestricted free agent. And you saw a lot of people freaking out. I even saw Bill Simmons, who covers this pretty well, was sending out some tweets about freaking out. This was all part of the plan. As Brian Windhorst then immediately reported an hour later, he's going to decline that, and then he's going to get a 3-year deal worth a lot of money with the Washington Wizards. So there is no worry about that. There is still the chance that everything we talked about the other day with him, in that he ultimately gets traded to, whether it's Miami, whatever it is, it could come to fruition. But it was always going to be opt out of the final year of the deal because you can get some more money and then re-sign at 3 years. So this Trae Young development doesn't really do anything, but it's worth just pointing out some of the details there. As of now, he is still a member of the Washington Wizards. Having said that, there's a lot of stuff. Mitch walked in here yesterday, and it's funny, what is becoming, I guess, the flavor of the month when it comes to some of the draft intel is what I've been talking about for a while, which is I think that Cam Boozer's got a better shot than the market's giving him credit for to go number 2 to the Utah Jazz. And so we'll see if that actually happens. But ultimately, when it comes to the top 3 of the draft, before we get a little bit deeper, my whole thing is that I think the market is being priced inaccurately in the sense of there's more probability of chaos, we'll put it like that, than what the market is pricing in. The market is pricing in, we're going DeBonsa, we're going Peterson, we're going Boozer, we're going Wilson, and that's the end of it. How often do you really see that, especially in some of these drafts? So I'm going to just say that I think it's closer that the Wizards are actually doing a lot of due diligence on certain guys. We saw a report, or I think it was a mock draft from Sam Vecini the other day, or this morning, from him, quote, one thing that has been made clear in recent days is that Washington is doing a lot of research into Darren Peterson to understand everything it needs to know about him. Another report from him saying, regardless, sources indicate that the Jazz are also undecided on what to do at number 2, tying into Boozer. Do not expect, however, that connections to Cam Boozer through his father, Carlos, or DeBonsa through team owner Ryan Smith at BYU will be the deciding factor here. And that's the one thing I wanted to focus on really quickly, because a lot of people keep pointing to DeBonsa being the guy at number 2, where they would never pass on DeBonsa if he's there because he went to BYU and their new owner went to BYU and he's a homegrown star. F all of that. Who cares? If I think that player A is the best player, I'm taking player A. I don't care where he went to school. Yeah. By the way, ask the Phoenix Suns how that worked when they drafted DeAndre Ayton out of Arizona, because he was at Arizona, right? Those things I don't think really enter into the calculus. So I think if you're really banking on some of that stuff, I think that that's not something that's worth really looking at. So with that out of the way, again, we're kind of still up in the air. Nothing really concrete. But again, I'll just reiterate that Boozer's got a pretty good shot to go at number 2, or at least a better shot than what we initially think of what the market thinks.
Those prices, by the way, just to pair some of that all up. DeBonsa now out to minus 450 to be the number 1 overall pick. But
he was minus 500.
But, when we talked about this earlier this week, it was minus 400, right? So it's, it's fluctuating certainly where we sit right now. But Darren Peterson still available there at plus 340 for number 2 overall. Peterson minus 120, but Boozer there at plus 170. And then for the number 3 overall pick, Boozer's your minus 140 odds on favorite. Peterson plus 220, Caleb Wilson 6-1. The biggest favorite of the top 4, though, is Caleb Wilson to go 4 at minus 475.
That seems to be the given.
Yeah.
That he is not going to go in the top 3, but he is not getting past 4.
Yep.
And that the Bulls are just sitting back and they know exactly what they have to do here. They're just drafting Caleb Wilson.
Even though we have talked a lot about the draft potentially starting at 1, everyone else really thinks the draft starts at 5. And that's been a big part of this too, is what the hell are the Clippers going to do in that 5 spot?
Yep. And so we were getting more noise around Braden Burries. So this is from Jake Fisher over at Bleacher Report Steinline. Quote, I'm told Arizona guard Braden Burries impressed Clipper staffers during his visit in Los Angeles on Tuesday, is very much under consideration for the 5th pick on next Tuesday's NBA draft. But in true draft form, Sam Vecini follows up in his mock draft saying, over the last few days, the 2 names that I've heard most associated with the Clippers are Mike Brown Jr. and Keaton Wagler.
Okay.
So not Braden Burries. But I'll say this about Burries. There seems to be enough positive momentum for Burries for him when you look at not only what the Los Angeles Clippers are potentially deciding to do here, but also the Dallas Mavericks at number 9 have been thrown out there as a spot for him that I would expect. And this is why you shop around too, because I was texting with Mitch about this earlier. FanDuel has Braden Burries minus 500 to be a top 10 selection. Mm-hmm. DraftKings has him as minus 270. Actually, no, I think I had that flipped. Excuse me. The other way around. DraftKings has a minus 500. FanDuel has a minus 270. I think the minus 500 to be a top 10 pick is way more accurate than minus 270. Okay. And I know our buddy Zach Cohen, he usually watches about this time. Zach, if you text me if you're watching, at what price you got Burries to be a top 10 pick, because it was below $2. But even in Matt Brown talks about this all the time during the NFL draft, it's an information-based event. So sometimes the prices that you're going to be playing into are the ones that you're not really used to playing. But I think minus 270 actually does provide a little bit of value for Burries to be a top 10 pick. I think there's a better chance that the Clippers could be looking at him to pair next to Garland if they decide not to trade that pick and go after Giannis Antetokounmpo. Speaking of which, there was a report yesterday that the Bucks are operating as if they have the 13th pick in this draft. The Heat own the 13th pick. So I don't know if you're operating like that, why wouldn't the trade just happen? Why wouldn't we hear about it at this point right now? So believe what you want. But it seems, I would think again, that the Miami Heat people are getting their voices to say the things that they want them to say at this point. But this all being said, I think Burries is going to be a top 10 pick. I feel pretty confident about that.
We are certainly on Giannis watch right now, as the self-imposed deadline for what's going to happen there has been the NBA draft coming up next week. I'm glad you brought up Zach Cohen, though. If you go to vsin.com right now, Zach does have an NBA draft betting guide that he put out yesterday. So a lot of interesting nuggets and notes there. Obviously, the Hardwood Handicappers podcast as well, breaking all of this stuff down. Speaking of guides, our NFL betting guide drops next week as well. Due date for all of the show hosts and everything for their submissions for best bets was today. So this thing is going to come at you fast and furious, and you only get access to it if you're a VSiN Pro subscriber. Sign up now for our $175 early bird special. You get the guides, you get the daily best bets, the betting splits data, the prop tools and projections, 24/7 video, so much more. VSiN.com/subscribe is how you can get involved now. Also, real quickly, just before we go to break, because we were talking about it last segment, and I know we're going to get into more World Cup stuff with Chris Vasile on the other side of the break. But the bad beat yesterday in the Ghana game for anybody that had the draw, and I know our own Gil Alexander was one of them, for that late goal, awful. Yeah,
that was absolutely brutal when you look at Ghana. Or how about earlier today as well, South Africa in that matchup too. You're talking about Czechia being up 1-0 in the 83rd minute, and you get a handball in the box, and then you sink the penalty to go ahead and draw that thing up in the 83rd minute. So the last two matches, the last match yesterday and then going up to there, or one of the last matches, excuse me, I think that was the penultimate one yesterday, Ghana. But we've had some ridiculous results, and the draws continue. I mean, they're already pretty high prices, but the draws continue to be a very, very profitable outcome for a lot of people here in the group stage, despite us Americans hating them.
Yes. Switzerland and Bosnia, the next game on deck. They'll be taking the pitch in about a half an hour. We'll break down that game. All three still to come today, and looking ahead to the weekend as well. I know Chris has some thoughts on USA, Australia coming up tomorrow and beyond. So stick around. When we come back, we'll have a little bit of a deeper dive into the World Cup. Very curious his thoughts on not only his plays, but some of the more thematic things that we have noticed. A lot of talk about Cristiano Ronaldo coming out of yesterday's Portugal match as well. So stick around. We'll be right back on Money Moves.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
One result already in the books today as the World Cup rolls on. 1-1 final with South Africa and Czechia. As we welcome you back here to Money Moves, Stormy Buonantony, Jonathan Von Tobel with you. And to talk all things World Cup, Chris Vasile joins us here on the Progressive Guest Line, betting analyst over at Covers. And there's lots to get to because we still have 3 more games remaining. Golden Boot to discuss. How are you, Chris? How have you enjoyed all the action?
I'm doing well. It's been a wonderful 7-8 days now. The action's been nonstop, and I'm loving every minute of it. So far, haven't had any bad beats, as you guys spoke about in the last segment, but there's still lots of time for it, so we'll cross our fingers that we kind of avoid that.
All right, so real quick, just in general, because now we're starting to get these teams out on the pitch for a second go-around here, but it's also been a long time between games. What do we make of these second matches for these teams? Is the rest a positive? Could we see more scoring? Could there be any effects of the long layoffs now that we're getting these teams back out onto the field?
Yeah, for sure. I think the second games are a little bit more reserved. I understand that teams need to know what to do in terms of, making the knockout rounds. So I think we're going to see a little bit more reservation from the teams. They could open up, the games could open up a little bit later on if teams are chasing goals, which could always lead to late counterattack goals that could kind of push the total over. But I think for the most part, we're going to see, a lower scoring round just based on teams not wanting to kind of put their qualification hopes, under the bridge, if you will, for the next round.
Well, let's get into the next game that we're going to see on our screens. I know you don't have a play in Switzerland, Bosnia, but I have seen a handful of people making a case for the underdog here in Bosnia. Right now, Switzerland minus 175, Bosnia around a 5-1 price, that ever so popular draw plus 320. But how do you see that one shaking out today?
Yeah, Stormy, this is an interesting game. Like you said, I don't exactly have a read on this game. Switzerland was kind of caught playing with their food a little bit against Qatar in the opener. They could have easily been up 3-4-0, if they had a little bit more clinical finishing. I do think they're the better side from the attack to the defensive side. Bosnia's only probably way to get anything out of this game, make their set pieces count, make their corners count as they did versus Canada. They don't offer too much by way of creativity up front. They got one or two good pieces, but ultimately I think Switzerland gets the job done. They're just a little bit priced out of my range. I think they're minus 180 now.
All right, let's talk about Canada and Qatar, too, because this one's going to be pretty interesting. Canada, I think, with some pressure on them, right? I mean, you don't get the result you want in that first match and a draw, and you've got to get this, especially on your home pitch, don't you?
100%. This is the game that when the group stage draw was kind of put together, this was the game that we all circled. I know me especially. Getting a result against Bosnia was not the result we wanted to, but this Qatar game is basically a must win if we want to progress. I'm personally on the under 2.5 goals. I got a plus 110. I just don't think Canada and Qatar have the style of play that are conducive to high scoring games. I know Alphonso Davies is kind of, will he play? Will he stay off on the bench in this game? Even if he comes into the mix, I still think this is going to be a very low event style of game. I do like Canada to win, but Qatar doesn't open up too much offensively. Canada is better in transition, so them dictating the tempo and the pace of play doesn't really suit their style. I think we're getting a 1-0 final, hopefully in favor of the Canadians.
And that plays into the thought process, like you were talking about these second round games potentially being a little bit lower scoring. Meanwhile, in the nightcap, Mexico and South Korea going head to head. I played Mexico on the 3-way line. I also have both teams to score. And I know that second bet is one that you liked as well. South Korea is certainly a more formidable opponent than we saw from South Africa for Mexico today.
Yes, 100%. I'm on both teams to score as well, so I think we're sitting on a winner there, hopefully. These two teams are kind of a little bit more contrasting styles than some of the other games today. Mexico, prefers to kind of sit back and kind of, play defense first. They do got some great attacking pieces up front that can, put pressure on the South Korean defense. Czechia was able to kind of trouble that South Korea defense in the first game. And if you look at South Korea, they've got some good players up front. They like to play a more up-tempo style of game where they pressure all over the pitch. I do think that's going to play a big factor in this game. Mexico's missing one of their key defenders in this game. So, these two teams are playing for the group winner, which is a big, a very, very important one in the grand scheme of things in the knockout round. I think we're going to see both of their best, and I think both teams are going to find the back of the net here.
All right, let's go to tomorrow. Everybody's going to be excited. Team USA looking pretty legit against Paraguay in the first matchup. Now they get Australia, who some of the metrics say wasn't really great in their first meeting. Can USA do it again from an offensive standpoint tomorrow?
Yes, JVC. I'm on the over 2.5 goals at plus 100 here. I do think the United States are going to pull off the victor. I think they're the more talented team. Australia was a little bit playing with fire against Turkey in the first game. Turkey just didn't have any finish or creativity. The United States love to play high event style soccer. 7 of the 8 games, their last 8 games have gone over 2.5 goals. They failed to keep a clean sheet in 8 of the 9 matches altogether. I know Christian Pulisic's question mark, surrounding his calf injury is kind of a big deal, but I do think he'll play. All reports are indicating that he will play. I just don't think Australia, is going to be sitting on another good defensive outburst. I think they're good on the counterattack. They can trouble the United States, but ultimately I think the United States are going to put another 3 spot up on the board and get the win in a higher scoring game.
I do want to follow up on that Christian Pulisic side of this, because the messaging at first was don't worry about it. And then it was he's day to day. And then it was he's not training with the group yet, but there's time. And now he's likely going to play. We've been all over the place in the last 48 hours about this injury. How important ultimately is he, though, to what the U.S. is trying to do here in this match?
Yeah, so he's the man for the United States. He's super important, obviously, but I do think the United States this time around are in a position where they have the players that can kind of pick up his absence and his slack there. Dest on the opposite wing, Balogun up top. These are good players that can actually create chances on their own. Weston McKennie, who plays for Juventus, my favorite team, is a more than capable midfielder that can generate plenty of offense on his own. So yes, he will be a big loss if he's out of the lineup. But this United States team is built in a way to kind of counter that, and I think they'll be just fine against Australia.
All right, let's go to one of the, I think this is actually the afternoon game, late evening on the East Coast. Scotland and Morocco tomorrow. Pretty decent result from Morocco, stealing a draw. Do we expect a letdown here against Scotland? What's the expectation for their performance?
Yeah, so for Morocco, I honestly think they had one of the best group stage performances for the opening round. Mm-hmm. For the majority of the game against Brazil, they kind of dictated the pace. They dictated the tempo of that game. It took a Vinicius Jr. Wonder goal to kind of get a Brazil level in that game. I think Morocco deserved the better result. I do think they're ultimately going to win this game. I got them on the money line -140. It was this Scotland side. Yes, they beat Haiti, but they struggled at times against a much weaker opposition. I think Morocco is just too talented. Their defensive pressure, their ability to have game changers on the pitch is I can't overlook. And I think we're getting a very good price here at -140.
One more thing before we let you go. A lot of the talk coming out of the Portugal draw yesterday was about Cristiano Ronaldo. Our own Alex Blowers in our VSiN Daily newsletter today said, I'd say he's moved beyond old Yeller status, knew he'd be found out against the bigger nations, but didn't expect it against Congo. Is he getting in the way of Portugal's potential for success in your eyes?
Yes and no. I think the whole entire Portuguese team did not play very well yesterday. I think that was one of the poorest performances of the opening group stage games. Obviously, you got the Ronaldo conundrum that is, he's earned his spot in the lineup, but ultimately the team is probably better off without him. It'll be interesting to see how Roberto Martinez kind of manages that going forward. I think he's earned the spot until he simply can't go anymore. That's just kind of my take on that. But I do think Portugal will end up being fine and progressing to the knockout rounds. I got them going in the quarterfinals, so let's hope they can pick up their socks sooner than later.
Chris, awesome stuff. Really appreciate your time. Thank you for doing this.
Thank you. Have a good one.
And we'll continue to check in with Chris, by the way, as the World Cup continues to roll on.
Old Yeller seems a bit strong. Didn't they have to put the dog down?
Yes.
Because it got rabies? I feel like, let me guess, you don't know.
My dad used to call me Old Yeller when I was a kid because I didn't like brushing my teeth, and he was making fun of my.
Oh, I thought it meant because eventually he was going to kill you. I probably should not
have told that to the world. Let's go back to the World Cup, shall we? Because if you missed, shut up. My teeth are such a good color. I am addicted to brushing my teeth. I have such a good toothbrush. I use whitening toothpaste. I go to the dentist every 6 months.
You're unbottling trauma,
I did want to remind you all that if you missed out on the $1 million Splash Sports contest for the World Cup, you still have time to score big. Splash Sports has launched a $500,000 high-stakes World Cup Survivor, $1,000 to enter, starts up with the round of 32. So essentially you can buy back in here. Here's how it works. Each round you pick one team to win, one selected. You can't choose that team again. Get it right and you move on. Get it wrong or it ends in a tie and you're out of there. Right now, new players using the promo code VSIN get a 50% deposit match up to $100, a free Quick Picks entry and a Quick Picks payout boost on an entry up to $20. Entries do close on June 28th. So don't wait. Sign up now at splashsports.com/VSIN. And Again, use that code VSIN while you're there. Must be 21 or older. See site for full rules and details. We got to step aside to talk more about the handle side of this thing, where the money is going. Excited to catch up with Duane Colucci when we return. Caesar Sportsbook Director over at the Result in Summerlin. Stick around. So much more to come as Money Moves rolls on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
I'll tell you who the wind's not bothering out there at Shinnecock Hills. It appears to be the one and only Rory McIlroy, who eagled on 5 a moment ago. He's through 15 holes on the day, 3 under to lead the tournament where we currently sit. We'll continue to keep tabs on all of this. A fun and interesting start, to say the least, out there for the U.S. Open as we welcome you back here to Money Moves. Stormy Buonantony, Jonathan Von Tobel with you. Excited to head behind the counter now as Duane Colucci joins us on the Progressive guest line, runs the Caesar Sportsbook over there at the resort at Summerlin. Duane, how's it going? I'm sure you're keeping tabs on all of the chaos out there at Shinnecock Hills as well.
Yeah, definitely. Tons of action for the U.S. Open, Stormy, as usual. And, we had tons of futures matchups. And basically the whole field you could bet on here at the resort at Summerlin at Caesar Sports. And it's always a lot of fun, to gauge, especially with this tough course. And, Stormy, I grew up in that neck of the woods, in Queens and, had my summer vacations at Montauk Point. And this is one of the most difficult courses by far for, these golfers to navigate. But Rory seems to be doing a great job. He's -3 through 15. And, he has the lead and he's really improved over the last few major tournaments. And it's good to see Rory back on the sheet.
It's really good for our audience that you clarified where you're from, Duane, because we never would have realized it at all. What were you guys sweating out here going into this before the tournament started? What were some of your more popular wagers in terms of the outright market?
Yeah, definitely. Scotty closed at 450 JBT. So, he was definitely a major market attraction. Cameron Young as well. He has been such a focal golfer over the last year and a half and just has improved his game massively. But now with the in-game, he has floated up to 20-1. So there is some value there. Scotty at 750. He closed at 450 prior to the start. And Rory is sitting at plus 375 on the in-game. So also laying, for him to finish in the top 5 at a -112. So it's going to be interesting to see. It's very early on. Like I said, a lot of these golfers are, guys that excel in the second, third, and fourth rounds, like Cameron Young. So those were definitely some of the major players. Sam Burns also took a lot of action prior to teeing off, So it's going to be a great tournament, and it's good, like I said, to have that star power like McIlroy, like Scotty, like Cameron Young, and it seems to be getting very windy there. So we're going to see how these conditions play out. You're not going to see a -20 win this tournament, that's for sure.
Yeah, and the thing, too, because of the 2-hour delay earlier this morning, because of the fog, we knew that the winds were going to pick up later on in the afternoon. So now the advantage that we thought some of those earlier players might have had off the rip, they ended up getting their, time extended out there and having more of that early wind. So that's just going to continue to pick up as we go. And, Duane, it's funny. You would think coming out of the NHL Stanley Cup final and the NBA finals, with all of that being in the rear view, we'd have this letdown. But we have the U.S. Open. We've got the World Cup going on right now, which has been absolute chaos, and I'm sure great handle for you guys at the book. As far as today goes, we've got 3 more games still to come on the slate. Any intel you can give us on how they're getting played early with you guys?
Yeah, definitely. They're smashing Canada, Stormy. So Canada's been a focal point. They're definitely a big favorite against Qatar. We're seeing a lot of money on Canada. Plus, we have a huge Mexican clientele. And, Mexico also is definitely a focal point from my side of the counter. It's going to be very exciting. It's going to be crazy in here at about 6 o'clock tonight. I know that sometimes the Mexican crowd outdraws the United States, Stormy. So it's going to be very exciting. And we had that viewing party for the United States' first game, and it was just packed in here. It was a tremendous turnout. We were giving out USA scarves, soccer balls, and definitely the World Cup is great. And especially having it here in the United States, it's just an amazing feel. But like I said, Mexico is definitely one of the top dogs from my side of the counter, and Canada is getting smashed as well. A lot of parlays on those two teams.
Duane, from a handle standpoint, especially when you consider the time that game is going to start, how big will this Mexico game really be if you compare it to some sort of an event? Because I would assume with the 6 p.m. kick as well, you have all day to get that up. You get people to get out after work, that it's going to be a very highly handled contest outside of just the popularity of Mexico here.
Yeah, definitely, JVT. And you're going to see a ton of parlays, like I said, even with the Angel and Athletic game. You're going to see them parlaying to the baseball, maybe even the Yankees. You know, the Yankees are sitting right now at 170 here. So definitely a lot of parlays. And like you said, it's perfect timing. Just like the first USA game, the 6 p.m. start definitely adds and enhances handle at the Resort at Summerlin and the Caesars Sportsbook. So, yeah, like I said, we're anticipating a huge crowd here and definitely a lot of action, from my side of the counter.
I know the noon start Pacific time for the USA game tomorrow makes it a little bit tougher to get that type of a draw. But coming out of match one, where Team USA looked as good as they do, there is a little bit more excitement for the Americans now. What's the early thought on the turnout going to be for the game tomorrow against Australia? And are people playing the Americans once again here?
Yeah, definitely, Stormy. We're sitting on the three-way at minus 176 USA. Australia is at plus 400. So definitely we're seeing a lot of USA money. And there's going to be a good crowd despite that. A lot of people take off on Friday. A lot of people enjoy it, try to get out of work a little early. And we have advanced wagering at all times. So our kiosks, we have 20 kiosks now on property. They'll be handling all sorts of action. Come on down, bet it before you have to go to work. You have plenty of time, but definitely an exciting matchup. And the way U.S. looked in the first game, they're definitely a major player here. So we're going to keep an eye on that handle, but it should be off the hook. I don't know if it'll exceed the Mexico handle, but it's going to be up there, Stormy. And it's very exciting. Like I said, it's good to see the United States have a chance on their home country turf. So, definitely we're going to see a lot of action on the United States, despite that 12 o'clock start here on the West Coast.
Anything notable handle-wise on some of these other matchups, or are they all going to pale in comparison to Mexico and USA being in action tonight and tomorrow?
Well, yeah, definitely, JVT, you start to see some of the teams that, the public are familiar with. Germany is going to have tremendous handle on the Saturday game. I anticipate that against Ivory Coast, was already seeing minus 200 on Germany. So, they're definitely one of the focal teams. Spain as well. They've been definitely a market changer. I mean, we're looking at 10-1 on them on Sunday. But, Mexico, the United States, especially the proximity that we are in this part of the country, in Nevada, it's definitely going to be tough to match that handle. And everybody knows Brazil as well. They're definitely a parlay juggernaut. When you're dealing with that game on Friday, you're going to see a ton of parlays from U.S. over to Brazil. So those are some of the games and some of the teams that people are focal on, especially here at Caesars Sports and the Resort at Summer.
Duane, last thing before we let you go, because when we were offline, we were catching up talking about all of the renovations that have been going on at the Resort at Summerlin, which includes, of course, the book and the Caesar Sportsbook that you're the director of out there. When football season rolls around and Sundays, I know it's going to be crazy each and every weekend. What are some of the things that people can expect over there at the new iteration of the property?
Yeah, we still, Stormy, have that $350 sign-up bonus, which is immense on the mobile app, only here at the Resort at Summerlin. Plus, we are currently reconstructing the Race and Sports Bar. So you have to come out and check it out. It's going to be a curved video wall type bar, similar to Durango, and it's just going to show all of the NFL action. We have 3 sports tickers. We added a video wall already and a video odds board. It's just a tremendous feel at the Resort at Summerlin, and very proud to run this Race at Sportsbook over here at Summerlin. It's going to be tremendous for the NFL and college football season. Come on out and join us. Caesars will be running a ton of promotions as well. So we're on the map without a doubt. So if you're in the Summerlin area, don't sleep on the resort at Summerlin. Come on out and join us and say hi.
Hell yeah. Beautiful. Duane, thank you so much for the time, buddy. We appreciate you.
Oh, always, Stormy. Thanks, you guys. Always a pleasure to join you guys on VSiN.
Great stuff. Duane Colucci, follow him on X as well, at NYBookieDuane. And it is like, I say this every time that we have Duane on. My family, we are regulars out there at the resort at Summerlin, and all of the stuff that they've done is beautiful. I'm excited to see the book when it's like fully completed and all set.
Speaks to what today is, though. It's going to be a big day later today.
It is, yes. I mean, we talk about, obviously, we just heard from Duane what the fanfare is going to be like out there in Summerlin. We know here at the book behind us how it was when we had the Mexico game on live for their first match. I can only imagine what it's going to be like later on tonight.
I asked the women that were running that, and they said that they're booked up all for the PM slots here. So this thing should be really full. I can't wait to get out into the muck of it all. Yeah. And we lucked out, too. So we had live on the air the first match for Mexico, and then tomorrow we're going to be live during the USA-Australia game as well. As we said, that noon kickoff might not be great for some, but great for us. Tonight, tequila. Tomorrow, with a little bit of whiskey. That's how we do it. Beautiful. Mm-hmm. And yeah, we're going to stay after we're off the air, because we'll only be an hour in by that point. We'll hang out at the book, enjoy all of the action. We got to step aside. More money moves coming up after this. We're kicking off hour 2 on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.